Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cloud Lunch and Learn. Today we have a special guest, we have Maria from CubeShop, and she's a developer advocate who's going to present us the Kubernetes troubleshooting best practices and how you can use those tools to for your team advantage. Welcome to the studio, Maria. How are you doing?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
You're welcome. So thank you actually for joining our session in early morning hours here on East Coast. Maria is actually joining from New York. So is it already you feel the cold and the autumn is there?
Definitely. It is
Okay.
here and it's taken no prisoners.
All right. Yeah, that's true. But autumn comes with its own beautiful colors here in East Coast. So hopefully, you'll get some time to enjoy that. All right. Without any overdue, we are going to dive into our session and let's make sure that the slide is here. Okay, Maria, all the slide and yeah,
All right.
if you
Thank you
can
so
please.
much for having me. So,
Yeah,
as you
please
know,
go ahead.
my name is Maria, and I'm going to be talking to you about unlocking your Kubernetes troubleshooting best practices with Botkube. So, just a little bit about me. I'm a developer advocate at KubeShop, which hosts the Botkube project. So, it's a Kubernetes accelerator that hosts a lot of developer tools in the CNCF landscape, and I work on Botkube. My background, I graduated with a degree in industrial system engineering. So I have a systems design background. So especially when it comes to efficiency, I like to optimize workflows. I also have been working as a developer advocate in the Kubernetes and cloud space for a while, and then I have a little puppy named Malcolm who is at my feet right now. So, just as everybody knows, the Kubernetes space is very complex. So, there's a very steep barrier to entry. So it's a steep learning curve. You have to know about networking. You have to know about continuous integration and continuous deployment just to be able to understand how to get your Kubernetes resources deployed. And that can be really challenging for teams with developers with a variety of different backgrounds. In addition, troubleshooting is challenging. So, especially in this new hybrid slash remote first workplace, it can be very difficult to get everybody coordinated and get everybody on the same page. So, even just something as simple as establishing context, does everybody have the right information? It is much more challenging than it was when everybody was in the same office and you could just look at somebody's computer screen. But when you have engineering teams, distributed across the world, it can be very challenging to get people all on the same page. So, what is Kubernetes troubleshooting? So, Kubernetes troubleshooting at its core is the process of identifying and resolving issues on your Kubernetes clusters. So, it could be problems related to resource allocation, networking challenges, deployments, traffic, things like that. So, here's an example of a Kubernetes troubleshooting scenario. So I'm going to be talking about the ohm killed error, which is one of the most common ones. So here's just an outline of the process. So let's say you get that error. Your pods are being terminated. So first you have to identify which container or pod that was being terminated. Then you have to go check the memory usage of that container or pod. Then you have to look for the errors in your pod logs. Then from there, you can actually go through the steps of solving the issue and update the container or pod image and then increase your memory limit. So, yes, it's a 5-step process, but if there's no transparency in your Kubernetes troubleshooting workflow, it can be very like 5 steps could take, hours or even days to get everything managed across the distributed team, especially teams that have multiple clusters. So the more steps that you add to the process, the more complexity that is there. So, like I mentioned before, when you add multiple clusters, you can decrease your visibility. So, you not having more complexity can really decrease your transparency. And additionally, most people aren't using Kubernetes bare metal, so you have multiple tools. So maybe you have Prometheus set up, maybe you have Grafana set up. So it can be really difficult to, allocate who's responsible for what and what tool is responsible for what cluster. And it can be very difficult to get that information to everybody who needs to know. So here's the core of the presentation. We're going to be going over the top 5 Kubernetes troubleshooting best practices. So the first one is going to be centralizing your monitoring and observability. So at the core is transparency. So if you do not know and if you cannot see, you cannot act. So you need to be able to give everybody the ability to see what's going on. Number 2 is incident response and collaboration. So does everybody have with that information, can everybody respond appropriately? Does everybody have access to the tools that they need to be able to act on the stuff that the information they just received? And third, you need to be able to establish a feedback loop. So you need to have a organized system for highlighting and identifying problems so you can have a continuous improvement. And then fourth is streamlining your command execution. So in an optimized system, we want to eliminate as many manual processes as possible. So by using automations, you can help streamline your command execution, either by just setting up automations for that automatically trigger when certain events happen, or even just streamlining them across multiple clusters. And fifth, more taking that automation piece further, you want to be able to automate your whole observability and delivery process. So once you're able to automate your actions, you want to also be able to automate your monitoring as well. So what is Botkube and how does it help teams follow troubleshooting best practices? So Botkube is a troubleshooting and monitoring solution that empowers DevOps teams to work more efficiently. So what this actually means is that you're able to both monitor and troubleshoot your events in the same platform. So instead of having to, switch to different screens, switching different contexts, having to hop on a meeting, you can have everything in your communication platform of choice. So you're able to collaborate with your team throughout the whole process. So everybody has access to the same information. Additionally, you're able to improve your developer experience by giving them self-service access. So not everybody is going to be a Kubernetes expert, but more and more developers need to have access to their Kubernetes information. So it allows developers to have access to their Kubernetes resources without having to be a Kubernetes expert. And then finally, you're able to run automated actions to optimize your manual processes, like I mentioned before. So, just a quick question for the audience. What communication platforms are you using? Okay. And since we have no questions, that's fine. Botkube currently works with Slack, Microsoft Teams, Discord, and Mattermost. It's very easy to install. There are 2 methods of installing. One, you can install via the Helm chart via our GitHub repository. Additionally, you can install very easily with our web-hosted app. You can also monitor your Kubernetes events via Kubernetes events and Prometheus. You can act on those events by having access to kubectl and Helm. So with the information you've received, you can act on it. Additionally, we have a lot of source and executor plugins that correspond with CNCF landscape tools. So for example, we have a Captain plugin, Flux plugin, Argo plugin, and we're planning a lot more. And in the web-hosted app, you can audit your events and commands. So that's about establishing that feedback loop. So having really lots of transparency and seeing all the commands that go on in your cluster. So back to our best practices. So these are the ways that Botkube can help you. Sorry, my Slack is going on. These are the ways that Botkube can help you follow these best practices. So number 1, for empowering observability, with Botkube, you can get real-time updates. So If you can get pod error alerts right in your communication platform. So here's an example of using it in Slack. You get a pod error from a failed container, and then you get it right in your communication platform. And with this, you're also able to, customize it so you can create different channels for incident responses. So, for example, the front end team does not need to see the full scope of errors, but your platform engineering team wants to see everything. So you're able to customize it based on your team's needs. So then, secondly, with incident response and collaboration, here is an example of teammates seeing um, an error or an alert, and they're able to work with it directly. So you're able to get logs right there. You're able to filter out the logs. So some of these logs can be like tens or hundreds of lines long. So you're able to filter out what the information that you need. And then in Slack, we currently have this interactivity feature that you can see here. So you're able to um, be able to build out your commands, which I think is great, especially for those who are not, kubectl native. They're able to easily work with the syntax and get everything going. So establishing a feedback loop. So here's an example of what the audit logs will look like. So you have a team filled with, let's say, 5 developers, and you can see who ran which command in which channel and responding to which event, which I think is great. So you can really help. It really helps with continuous improvement. So if you have your team and you notice that there's certain performance issues or certain errors that happen over and over again, by having that history to go back on, you're able to work with that and build better processes in the future. And then streamlining command execution. So we're really automation focused at Botkube. So here's another example of the command builder. So you're able to easily streamline that instead of having to manually write out all these commands. And it gives it gives more people access to, being able to work with these Kubernetes tools without having to be an expert. And you can also, leverage this tool to be able to run a command across multiple clusters, which really speeds up your troubleshooting process by taking out that manual step. So, and here are some of the automations. So, you're not only able to just automate kubectl, you're also able to automate different CNCF tools. So currently we have some Flux automations, we have some Argo CD automations. So it'll allow you to take out a lot of these tedious manual steps so you can actually, especially for developers, just focus on the code instead of being stuck in, operations land. And it'll also just lower the amount of time that you're spending on monitoring. Everything is automated for you. And if you have, the same types of problems showing up in your clusters, you're able to, you know, put in a process, put it in a automated place so you don't have to repeat those same steps over and over again. So here, so if you want, this is an example of what the previous example I showed you of the ohm killed error, and this is what it could look like with Botkube. So it'll take your 5-step process into a 2-step process, just because you're able to automate the first 3 steps of the process and get all of your teammates on board. So you're able to reduce your troubleshooting time by 40% by taking out those first 3 steps. So in conclusion, you need to have a strategic approach to Kubernetes troubleshooting, especially as you get a more complicated and more complex environment. And by centralizing monitoring and collaboration, you're able to run your team optimally. And Botkube is able to enhance your efficiency and reliability across all of your Kubernetes clusters, which is great. And in this landscape where developers are expected to know a little bit about everything. Just reducing the amount of Kubernetes knowledge that they need to know can just help them focus on the code, and focus on what they were meant to do. Yeah, this is just how to get started with Botkube. So you can easily install Botkube in Slack or Teams, Discord, or Mattermost, and then you can install Botkube in your cluster with Helm. Then you can configure Botkube via the web hosted app, um, set your Helm parameters, or do it via the custom YAML configuration. So I'm gonna see if my demo is working. Let's see if the demo gods are being nice. But in the meantime, let's see if we have any questions. Oh, you're on mute.
All right, thank you for reminding that. So I looked at the chat, Maria. So there is no questions at the moment, but there's more audiences actually joining the session. So I believe once the demo starts, there will be a lot of questions. Thank you for introduction. So I will be back on the backstage, and if there's any questions, I will bring them.
Great, great, great. So let me set this up really quickly. So actually, let me just show my video demo, because when in doubt, you gotta have your backup. All right.
Yeah, please bring back the screen for
Oh
sharing.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
One second.
no problem. You're welcome.
All right. Um, okay. Can you see my
Hmm.
screen? All right.
Yes, let me add that. Here we go.
All right. So this is what the Botkube Cloud workspace looks like. So this is how you would get started with Teams. So since this is a lot of Azure people, so this is what Teams looks like, and this is how you would get Botkube installed. You just add the bot to your team, and you'd pick whatever team channel. So in this case, I use the KubeShop demo. Let me see if I can slow this down. Um, okay, let's slow this down. All right, so you can add Botkube to your Teams channel. So you just connect to Botkube Cloud. And in this case, we have production and dev. So this is the Botkube dashboard. So we have your Azure, stage, and production. That's all connected to your Teams channel. So I think this is great, especially when I was talking about the multi-cluster problem, about having multiple clusters and having to organize the management. So by easily being able to put it in one channel, you can centralize all of your monitoring in one place. So this is Botkube connected into this channel. And then this is the list of deployments. So you can just run a simple command to get you your deployments. And then here is an example of being able to easily run your your kubectl commands in Botkube. So you would do, Botkube. So we have aliases as well. So instead of writing kubectl get pods, you can do kc get pods, or kc get po if you want. And you can specify via the cluster name, which is great. So if you have multiple clusters in one channel, you can specify which command is doing what. So for example, this is getting the pods for the stage. And then this is what it looks like in Teams. Um, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like in Slack. So most of our users are currently using Slack. 1 second. Right. So this is what it looks like in Slack. So this is basically getting started. Botkube, you ping it, you wake it up and say, Botkube, wake up. And it'll say ping pong. And then, so then by running the help function, you're able to see all of the different commands that Botkube can run. So it'll help you see all of the different executors, aliases, and then it'll show you the different ways to run each of those commands, which I think is great because you're not expected to know everything and memorize everything, which I think is great. So in this case, we have Helm, kubectl, and Doctor, which is our ChatGPT plugin, which we have integrated here. So this is part of the automations that I was talking about in the earlier presentation. So by even just having ChatGPT available instead of having to, open another browser, I think is great to answer a lot of your Kubernetes questions. And we're still implementing more, so we want to get to a point where we can, iterate based on, either the docs or previous cluster information. So here's that command builder I was talking to you guys about previously. And then this is just get pods. And then this will show you everything that's going on in your cluster. And then you can see an error happening. So then you can run a command against it. So if I wanted to describe, let me speed this up a little bit. So then you can see everything that's going on, and then I could filter it out. So I can filter out by a particular error or whatever I'm looking for. And then here's another alert. So we have an ingress created. So what if I'm, a newbie developer and we have our automation. So anytime a resource is created, it'll automatically describe it for me. So I can skip that manual step. And then I can see what's going on in my Helm chart. And I can see, okay, it's only Botkube that I have here. And I can see that it's the correct version. So if I wanted, let's say I was a newbie developer, I see everything that's going on in this chat, and I'm like, oh, what's a Kubernetes ingress? I saw the alert come up. So you can run the Doctor plugin. And then it'll tell you, it'll give you information from the Kubernetes documentation.
So the first one.
Ooh. All right. So that was just the basics of Botkube. Let me stop sharing my screen. Do we have any questions?
So I'm looking at the chat now. Thank you. We don't have any questions, but it's great to see that the tool is integratable with Teams and as well as with the Slack. So in terms of like usage by developers, do you see that like all developers in the team are mostly interacting from that collaboration tools, or what is the a recommended approach to interact with the tool?
I think the recommended approach for developers is basically just kind of using it as a kind of Kubernetes almost runbook where
Mm-hmm.
you can have all these configurations in place. So you're not having to, think about intensely about your Kubernetes resources outside of, is my app still up? So I think that's great. And then it kind of streamlines the process of instead of having to set up a meeting or set up a conversation with somebody on your platform team or your DevOps team, you
Hmm.
can have everything in one channel. So it's easier to answer questions, if that makes sense. So it's really about, reducing the amount of mental load when it comes to using Kubernetes.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful when you are like you know as a DevOps person or ops person or developers supporting the production and there's something on the fire for sure. But in terms of when the developers or team is trying to organize that in a way that, okay, here's our production Kubernetes, right? But before running anything on production, ideally they should run that on development, on a staging and other environments. So in terms of like organizing them through the collaborative chat. So do you recommend them to have a separate channel for the development instance of the same thing where they can experiment with their change before, applying to production? So how it would look like? Do you have like any samples or something or any recommendations from that?
So recommendation. So I would recommend just having like a dev channel, like you said, just for that experimentation. And one good thing about Botkube is that the channel is tied to the art, like the role via
Mm-hmm.
Kubernetes RBAC. So if you want to have, a channel that's purely, read only for developers, you can do that. So let me actually share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hopefully, there's nothing too controversial in Slack. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Now you're sharing.
All right. Can you see me? All right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you can split up the channels via dev, and then if you want to have two clusters in here, you can have dev prod,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then this would be production. So this would be for only the administrative folks to use. So here you can change what configurations you can have in here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're using, Argo CD. You can make it read only, so they can um, have access to the Argo resources, but they can't, run any deployments.
Nice.
So I think it's really nice that you can separate based on channel, and then you can, do a private channel. Um,
And
and
in terms of like setting those channels, let's bring the so in terms of like setting those channels, uh, for the cube. So do you have like written recommendations when teams is trying to set it up, and what type of roles they need to assign? Because some of them, as you mentioned, it might be read only to see the logs that are happening there, especially if there is any warning or any error that's going on in the environment. So is there like how much granular is that in terms of separating the roles and showing the certain things?
um, so it's just based on the so you mean like basically just like dividing the roles. So let me
Hmm.
make a channel right now and show you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So
Adding. Hmm.
can you see this? All right.
Yes.
So let's say I'm going to make the dev channel. So I have my Kubernetes source, and I can configure it. Um, I can configure it if it'll let me. Um, so that it's always read only by default. So then, as an administrator, then you can add on all of the additional, you know, execution parts of. Okay, why is this being a little buggy? All right. Okay, perfect. So you can change the permissions,
Yeah,
right?
that's great. Hmm.
And then I can even just divide it by namespaces here. I can you know, show which type of events come in. So it's really customizable based on what your team needs.
Okay.
I can change the resources. You can change a lot of things, which I think is great. And then you can also do it for um, kubectl. So, for example, all of the let me turn on Slack. All of the verbs, there are no create or destroy verbs, but you can add them if you want. But out of the box, um, it's only for it's verbs that won't bother your cluster, which I think is great. So out of the box, it's definitely there's a lot of guardrails in place. So for that DevOps team that wants to give make an experimental channel, it's already coming out of the box where you can't disturb anything.
That's great.
So with the web hosted app, it's very easy. Then you can put in aliases, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
just easily create your instance, which I think is great.
That's great. Yeah. In terms of like I know that this product's in, getting new features that you mentioned. So in terms of like roadmap, what are the most desired features that you see from your customers or the people who are using the Botkube? And can you talk about that timeline or what the team is working on and what you are planning to bring?
Great. So we just did a big GitOps push the
Hmm.
last 2 months. So we were able to easily, quickly implement Flux and Argo plugins. So we're seeing a lot of traction for that, especially on like the operator side. But our next really big push is going to be just making onboarding and installation easier. So we're going to have a new Slack app. So to even just try out Botcube, it can be really easy. You just click of their button, and you can have a demo bot in your Slack channel and without even having your cluster up and running. And then additionally, we're really revamping our teams process. So part of the reason why I had to use a video demo is because I was
Hmm.
working with Terraform, and that was running slowly. So what we're doing is really streamlining that teams process. So currently, you have to expose an endpoint for teams, but then now we're securing that with our next round. And the timeline is about 2 weeks from now, actually. So I'm going to have a link in the chat. Let me put it in the chat,
Yes,
actually.
please put that in the chat so you can share with audience.
Oops.
Yeah, you can use the private chat so I can share it with the public one.
Okay, so
Hmm.
Q.ios.
And meanwhile, we are getting this link for the audience. So if you have any questions regarding uh, the presentation and as well as the product, please feel free to put your question in the chat, and we will bring that to the studio. So I'm sharing the link that I just got.
So you can sign up for our newsletter,
Hmm.
and then we're going to be announcing the new Teams integration soon.
Okay.
Um, Yeah. So yeah, Botcube is really open to hearing user feedback. We're always in the market for getting user feedback and hearing how different teams are using Botcube. We're still a very small dev team, so there's about 8 of us working on Botcube full time. So we really like to hear about teams and organizations of all sizes and how they're not only just using Botcube, but how they're doing monitoring and troubleshooting in general, and if there are any ways that Botcube can help automate that process.
Okay. Let me put those links. I believe when I put them, they went as a. Okay, here we go. I put them again. Okay. It's more like a link now. And join. So when I clicked on the second link, I get the 404.
Oh, sorry. Let me change that.
Yeah, could you please just check it? I
Thank
try
you
to
for
test it a little bit for the for all our users and people who join the session. So and meanwhile, again, like this session is all about troubleshooting the Kubernetes. And if you are in that, uh, you know, if you are wearing that shoes, that you have to troubleshoot your Kubernetes, or you have some long taking process to troubleshoot the Kubernetes, please share it back here with Maria, because she's a developer advocate, and they are trying to create the tool and improve that, so that your experience as a DevOps is much smoother and much better when you're troubleshooting and trying to understand what's going on with your Kubernetes.
I
Okay,
put it
Maria.
in. I put it in the.
Uh-huh. Yes, I saw it. So it's more like a Slack channel, correct?
Yes, yes. So that's
Invitation
where
to Slack
we.
channel.
That's where
Okay,
all of
and
our devs
mhm,
are.
great,
So you can join the Helping Hands chat, and they will help you through your any installation problems that you have. You can
great.
put product feedback, any ideas about features. We're always
Hmm.
curious to hear what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, definitely. Like I'm always up for the end user feedback and experience, because that gives us insights into terms of like how the product is used and where they are, you know, where we need to invest in terms of, make the happy developers, and plus help them in their troubleshooting. Okay, I put the both links there. Thank you for, checking them. Meanwhile, again, we are open for the questions. For the next minute, we'll wait. So if you have any question regarding the demo that Maria did, or regarding the Botkube uh, product, how it can help you in troubleshooting your Kubernetes environment issues, please let us know. And meanwhile, what is next, Maria? If somebody looked at it and they want to go and try this tool, right? Let's say they want to experiment first before bringing that to the team, what resources or where you would recommend our users to go and look at?
I would just start
Hmm.
Slack channel, and then also we have a very active blog. And then on Thursday we're having office hours actually. So let me put the sign up page for that as
Hmm.
well.
Okay.
So we have community events where we show different user experiences and stories, and just showing more live demos about how to use Botkube. Because I
Hmm.
think a lot of times it can be scary when you're using a new tool and you're not really shown how to use it and why you would use it. So we have a lot of community events and a very active blog that will show you all the different ways people are and you could potentially use Botkube.
Okay. Um, when I put that link, for some reason, I'm getting 404 at the point.
Okay.
Maybe it's URL changed, or hopefully it's not a pod that's out and it needs to be replaced.
Wait, hold on, let's see. Um, why is it why? Okay, I tried it in incognito. It says the link is was working.
Service, self-service. Okay, let me see. Oh, yes, it worked now. Great.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
For some reason, when I took the link, it actually added something at the end
Oh,
from the StreamYard, so that caused it. So now this link should work. Yep, great. So yeah, I see the newsletter that you can sign up, guys, for the office hours. If you have any questions and you are experimenting with that tool, there's a Slack channel URL as well. And you know, thank you, Maria, for presenting that. Is there any last kind of um I won't say last minute, but it's do you want to conclude with some message for the people who are going to watch us later on to YouTube channel and try to use this tool? Please go ahead.
I'm sure. I mean, I think the most beautiful part of Botkube is not only the efficiency, but I think the potential to open up Kubernetes to more people. I think in this new landscape, it's an essential tool. So giving more people access to developer education is so important. And by having a safe environment to experiment with different tools across the landscape, I think it's really important to everybody's developer journey. So if BotCube helps you with that, I think that's a success.
Yes, give it a try for a bot cube, see how it works. Maybe that's what, will make your life much easier and better in troubleshooting, especially if you're a novice, when you're just starting and you don't know where to look. And thank you, Maria, for your presentation. And thank you, everyone who was watching with us live, and as well as going to watch this later on YouTube channel. Please check our next session on Cloud Launch and Learn. We'll be here next week. And again, thank you, Maria, for your presentation. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a good day. Bye, guys.